Good afternoon, everybody. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for our live stream conversation today on volunteering during COVID-19, presented by the Starbucks Foundation. Today, joining us are Archana Verma, United Way of King County Associate Director of Affinity Marketing, and Liahann Bannerman, United Way's Director of Volunteer Engagement. Please be sure to put your questions in the chat, and I'll read them out after they have completed their conversation, and we'll try to answer all of the questions that come in. So with that, please welcome Liahann and Archana. Thank you for all joining us.
Hello.
Hi, thank you, Jared. And Liahann, it's so great to see you in this new virtual reality that we're in.
Yes, I know. I miss looking across and seeing you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so happy Earth Day, and also want to recognize that we're right in the midst of National Volunteer Week. Yeah.
Yes, we're very excited about that, especially right now with so many people coming forward wanting to help. It's great to sort of recognize their efforts year round, not just now, but National Volunteer Week is a great way for organizations and everyone to sort of appreciate all the volunteers out there who are doing so much right now.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about volunteering in the times of COVID, right?
Yes.
Because when you think about volunteering, you think about rolling up your sleeves and getting down, getting your hands dirty. And with the social distancing guidelines and the public health risks, how have you seen volunteering pivoting to that environment?
Well, pivoting is the operative word because there's been a lot of it. So there is still in-person volunteering, but also virtual and what I'm calling do-it-yourself, the kinds of things you do at home. But one of the first things we did right after we learned what was going on with the pandemic is to create a page where organizations could post their needs specific to COVID, because we realized that so many, for example, food banks, they rely on a lot of volunteers, and so many of those volunteers that are, sort of the core to their work are over 60. So they wouldn't be able to necessarily come out and volunteer safely. Some of them still did, but so what we were thinking about in terms of the in-person volunteering was, how do you change how you deliver the food or have people pick up food. So nonprofits and food banks and pantries that shifted their logistics of how they do things, so that people were, definitely the 6 feet away, if not more, and weren't touching things, and, hand sanitizer up to here, and but trying to make it as safe as possible. And so for in-kind, there are definitely providers that are still doing essential services. They're approved by the governor to be out there volunteering in these ways. And it's really just doing the same things that we're all doing of, if you're sick, don't volunteer. If you're, if you are in one of those categories that is vulnerable, don't volunteer, do the in-person volunteering. So there's definitely on the agency side as well, the things that they are doing differently, deep cleans and stuff like that to make it safe. But there is a need for healthy people who aren't in contact with and might be in contact with people who are vulnerable to still volunteer in person. And the other part of pivoting is switching over to like virtual and things you can do from home as well. So there's a lot of webinars and things for us to be listening in on, and trying to figure out like ways that we can help our nonprofits still get their needs met for those that are essential and open.
Yeah. So you talked about food banks and you talked about nonprofits and their needs. And I know that your team recently did a needs assessment survey. And in talking to our partners, what are you hearing from the ground, especially from communities of color? What are the needs?
Yes, I mean, I think the one thing that this has highlighted more than anything else are gaps in our systems, and a lot of those gaps do have racial implications. So think of the digital divide, and the schools that are able to give laptops to everybody, and the schools that aren't, and the families who don't have Wi-Fi at home, or aren't getting their information via email from school. They're used to the piece of paper coming home. So so there are needs around getting some of that technology. And I know some organizations that are out there recruiting, trying to recruit hotspots and other technology that can go to students. And then for other providers, I mean, it is such a range of things. So on the, you think about the organizations that are serving folks who are undocumented. They are doing some webinars in different languages, but sometimes, you still need someone to transcribe that so that it is written, and then also then translate that into a bunch of other languages. So it's, so there are organizations who are looking for people to help with that. There are organizations looking for people to be phone buddies and call, whether it's seniors or whoever your targeted population is, just doing wellness calls like a couple of times a week and being assigned to some people, and wanting tutors, online tutors, especially for kids who are already behind because of inequity, being able to, again, get them the hotspot and the Wi-Fi, get them the computer, and get them someone online who can help them. And I think it's especially important because so many of the people who are having to still work, and for all of us, not us, because I don't have kids, but for all of my friends who are complaining about like having to teach their kids now at home or monitor their online learning, it's there are families who are still going out into the world, whether it's first responders in healthcare or the garbage sanitation workers. So I think it's thinking about those families that don't have someone who is at home able to monitor all of that, and the ways in which some of the nonprofits are trying to get some of those materials and resources to them.
Yeah, totally. As a parent, I totally hear you on the challenges of homeschooling and juggling. Right, it takes work-life balance into an entirely new space. You talked about phone banking, and in my role at United Way, I work with our giving communities,
Mm-hmm.
our Emerging Leaders 365, who are young professionals who are making a difference, our change makers, and our champion donors. And it's been amazing to see this overwhelming desire from these groups in wanting to give back. So phone banking, as an example, we have a group of Emerging Leader 365s at Microsoft who've signed up to get involved through through an easy virtual volunteering opportunity.
Yeah.
We also talked about our programs. It reminds me of this this really sweet video that one of our co-workers shared about our Parent Child Plus program provider reading a story online to be able to still connect, through the home visitor program in this new paradigm.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of that. I think one of the things that we've also found is that we categorize organizations into your basic needs and your youth and your education and those sorts of things. And right now, nonprofits are responding to the needs of whoever it is they serve. So if they serve seniors or youth or are education focused, they are now like trying to help their families and their students get food. And they are trying to help them, with the resources to get rental assistance or any of the other, many needs that are out there. So there is a lot of that pivoting, and we did it with our own volunteering. We have our 33 different tax sites, 1,200 volunteers, and tax sites are now closed. So pivoting being, again, the operative word is looking at how we can connect and do some online support for tax campaign and census outreach. And as you mentioned, thinking about trying to call 60,000 families across the area to let them know about the resources that are available to help them, whether it's meal sites or, again, rental assistance or just a lot of different resources that we have on the website. But for those wanting to really look at those specific needs of organizations, you might see an organization that's in your neighborhood, or it might be, far away, but they are posting the need for masks. They are posting the need for food cards, for coloring books and crayons to give to kids so that kids can stay busy when their parents, don't have, no longer have the resources to purchase those kinds of things.
Totally. And there's just so many ways to help, and there is an overwhelming need for help. And I see United Way as being that bridge. So I mentioned the giving communities. There are, on our United Way website, there are ways to sign up to be part of the Emerging Leaders 365, our change makers, our champion groups, and get involved with like-minded people who also care about the community. We've talked about different volunteering opportunities like food banks and supply drives and phone banking. Liahann, how do people sign up or find out about these?
Yes, so we have on our website, if you go uwkc.org/volunteer, there is a button, a big red button there that is for volunteering around COVID response. And it is, as I mentioned, it includes in-kind needs, because that was one of the things we changed up so that we could get a sense of what else nonprofits and organizations need, especially when people can't volunteer in person as much. And if you go there and, for example, if you are looking to, specifically do the mask making, you can go and, in the keyword masks, and you will see a large number of mask opportunities there. And that's actually part of, we are now getting ready pretty soon. People in other parts of the state will also be able to participate in something that the Lieutenant Governor's office is trying to promote to get more people doing making masks, wearing masks first, put it on yourself, wearing masks, making masks, and donating masks, because so many nonprofits that are frontline, nursing homes and childcare, and as we talked about, the shelters and everything are, and food banks, they need those masks too. And now that it's become okay for the masks to do those masks, that we decided that we needed to sort of help promote that work. And we have a number of companies that are sort of stepping up and wanting to help around some of that work too. So that was one of the first meetings we had, was to find out, for those that have employee volunteer programs, how do you want to be engaged now that, everyone's virtual?
Mm-hmm. Totally. And, speaking of virtual, a group of emerging leaders, 365s, who are also part of YP Impact, are getting together on a Zoom call to make masks. And it's no few options. There are options for people who have sewing machines. So they're just, people are stepping up creatively to be able to meet the needs of our community. So, Liahann, you talked about organizations, and I saw that F5 Networks, which has a tremendous supporter of United Way for years, was recently given an award. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so they received the Governor's Volunteer Service Award for employer-based programs. So every year, our State Commission for National and Community Service, serve Washington. I am a commissioner, so full disclosure. But every year, in partnership with the governor's office, do awards for people across the state in all sorts of categories: individuals, corporate groups, families, youth, seniors, and a lot of different AmeriCorps awards. And so F5 was one of those organizations that was nominated, and they are the organization that won for employer-based program. We had the great opportunity. They are part of our Workplace Community Engagement Network, which is sort of a council of organizations that do employee engagement in community. And organizations like our sponsor, Starbucks and Microsoft and PEMCO, and just a large number of them. And one of those organizations actually is also Providence, which is how we got connected to the whole idea of making the mask, because they had such a huge response when they had their mask making for healthcare workers with the commercial grade ones. So we partnered with them on our whole process and design for promoting the masks ourselves. So But yeah, no, the companies, a lot of companies are really stepping up. When I get off this call, I'm going to be in a call with them to sort of talk around some of those additional digital needs that are out there, um, and so it's a lot of community is coming together around this, and it's really it's very energizing and inspiring to see, because sometimes in our role we see that we don't always see the connection happen. We are posting things up there and seeing responses, and then that we actually get to hear from the nonprofits that their needs are being met, and hearing from volunteers that want to do more, and being creative with them. If nothing else, if you are someone who is homesick or caring for people who are vulnerable, then there are still some ways you can volunteer. It's just, it's going to be more of the digital, making phone calls, doing phone banks, those kinds of things. Because that's one of the things, safety is still paramount in all of this. So, don't make the mass if you are in a home where someone has COVID-19. And on the agency side, it's making sure all the safety guidelines are in place. And Serve Washington came up with some really good guidelines for volunteers and agencies that we have on our site.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I keep reminding myself of this is who United Way is. This is part of our ethos, our mission, right? We're bringing caring people together to give, volunteer, and take action.
Yeah.
And in these times, more than ever, we're seeing concrete examples of that happening.
Yeah. No, and it's you get emotional sometimes when you see, you sort of see, like, people are thanking you, and it's like, no, it's just my job. But it is there's just so much out there going on, and yeah, I think I'm on like so many different webinars listening, because my team is just trying so hard to come up with new ideas and sharing with organizations, and how to fundraise virtually, and just trying to do everything we can to help the nonprofits and the community organizations to get the resources they need, because we know it's tough now, and it's going to be tough long term. And I think one of the things that I think actually was someone from that workplace group that I was talking about was saying is, like, this is so highlighting the gaps in what we do, the gaps in our systems. And she's sort of committed herself to keeping those front and center now, but later as well, because we don't want this to, the next emergency to have us see the same issues come up again and again. So so it really is highlighting things and policies and things that we can take care of, and people can volunteer to do that, to make sure that those policy changes happen, and to advocate.
Yeah. So we're almost at time for questions, but just to respond to what you said, Liahann, is that it's definitely been a roller coaster. It's been heartwarming to see individuals, organizations stepping up for the community, but at the same time, the need is just so great that we are looking for more support.
Yes.
And volunteering, donating time, donating money are ways that people can do that, even with our current environment. So with that, Jared, do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Archana and Liahann, for that wonderful conversation and sharing it with all of us. Had a lot of good questions coming in. I do want to remind everybody that all of the volunteer opportunities you've heard talked about, and different organizations and agencies that are looking for people to help, can be accessed through uwkc.org/volunteer. And so now I'm going to kick in some questions here. I hear, what about teens? Are there ways for them to get involved, give back online?
Was that teens or teens?
Teenagers.
Teenagers, yes. Yes, in fact, one of the things that's interesting with the Washington Mass Challenge that will be coming out of the Lieutenant Governor's office is OSPI is involved, and home ec teachers, and they're actually giving students credit if they participate. So so they maybe they know how to sew already. Maybe this is a great time to learn, or to have their caregivers, parents and caregivers, teach them. And I think with so many of the things being online and digital, as long as there's no opportunity for anything negative happening, I think it's a great time for teens to engage. I think about like them making the call to the senior who's alone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it makes me get a little more comfortable just thinking about that. So
No,
yeah, so you don't have to, if they don't drive yet, you don't have to worry about like driving them somewhere. I mean, it's, in some ways it's the perfect way to engage teenagers right now, because, some of the volunteering is happening online, or is, as we were saying, do it yourself. And when it comes to the do it yourself, I mean, obviously the masks is an obvious one. I'm sort of telling people, just look in your own neighborhood to see what needs there are. Get on, whether it's your neighborhood Facebook group to sort of offer up, find out like who needs, who is homebound and needs someone to go and pick up groceries for them and things like that. Again, all doing it very safely, but there are ways to connect at that very local level. You don't always need a website to go and find strangers. You can, sort of start at home.
Fantastic. I did have one question come in saying, I understand that I can access these opportunities at uwkc.org/volunteer. What if I want to email somebody in your volunteer center? Who do I talk to? Who do I email?
It is volunteers@uwkc.org. If you want to, if you have a specific question for us, but if you, but the best way is, to look at the website first, uwkc.org/volunteer, and that will take you to where all the COVID opportunities are.
Excellent. CH asks, is it a good idea to buy food and drop it off at food banks right now?
It is a good idea if you make sure you connect with that food bank in advance. One, to make sure, like, find out what it is that they need. And also to make sure that they're open when you drop it off, and that you are following whatever guidelines they need for you to do a drop off like that. So, so just showing up, you may find that it's during hours that they aren't open, and that because you haven't put things in a Ziploc bag, or you haven't, whatever they are asking people to do. So it's good to reach out to the organizations first, which it's, in general, it's always a good time to do that, but especially now, to find out what they need. So, but food is definitely a big need. If delivering food is not an option, I always sort of say that, the food banks can do more with money and bulk buying. So if buying, going to Costco and getting a 24 pack of beans is not an option for you, or definitely consider like what would that cost, and then give them the money is another option there.
Fantastic. Ken asks, are there ways to connect with other volunteers online? I live alone.
That's interesting. I'm thinking about like what Archana was saying about like the group of volunteers that are coming together to do masks. I mean, again, I'm thinking, the first thought that I have is thinking about whether it's Nextdoor, or, if you have one of those online communities like Facebook, Columbia City Facebook, or something like that, of sort of reaching out, and maybe if several of you may find other people who are also volunteering for the organization you're with, and maybe do a Zoom call to do a sewing bee together. I know one of the things that we're talking about is having a master seamstress like come on, do a video to show how to make them, but maybe people can do it at the same time and ask their questions. So so part of it is trying to, there isn't like a specific network, but you may also work with the nonprofit that you are volunteering with to see if there's a way that maybe they could do a Zoom call to bring you all together and just see your faces. I know it's like sometimes, like, number of times I've been on a call, it's like, oh, that's what you look like. Okay, different than I thought. So yeah, I think there may be some creative ways of, you're all doing the same thing at home, but maybe you're doing it on Zoom, or or Microsoft Teams, or whatever tool is being used.
So, Liahann, I would just add to that is the different giving communities that I mentioned are Exactly that. It
Yeah.
is coming together of like-minded, caring individuals, and even in this current environment where it is that virtually coming together. So if you're volunteering, we would love to hear from you and what you're doing. We'd love to make connections to other volunteers and supporters in our community, and then we're also looking at creative ways to pivot our different offerings. So, as an example, for the Emerging Leaders 365 group, we will be announcing a virtual Connect for Good activity fairly soon about ways in which you can work as a team on getting educated about the needs of the current environment, as well as connecting with other individuals who are making a difference.
Yeah. And I'd also say, just, as you are doing things, whether you're doing it virtually or doing it, doing things, at home or in person, is to share that information online. I mean, so, post that and use, hashtag UWKC so we can see and recognize you and appreciate the work that volunteers are out there doing. And that may be another one of those ways that you can connect to what other volunteers are doing out in the community. So I think it's a great way to use social media for good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got just about 2 minutes left, so we'll see if we can get 2 more in with quick answers. Marshall in Seattle says, online tutors sounds cool. Where can I find those sort of listings?
Yeah, so those, I know that there were a few of those that I saw on our website. So again, it's unitedwayofkingcounty.org, uwkc.org /volunteer. And click on the COVID, and then if you were to type in tutor, you would see those opportunities pop up. And and I think, like, the ones that I've seen, it's you need to have your own Wi-Fi and your own computer, and you still need to do the background check because they want to make sure that things are safe for the students. But it is a great way to do that. And and there's some bigger online ways that you can connect around tutoring, but I think sort of keeping it at the local level for now.
Excellent. We're actually running a little closer on time, so I think we're going to use that as a stopping point. And I'd like to say thank you so much to Liahann and Archana for being our subject experts and so engaging. I could listen to you talk all day. I also would like to thank the Starbucks Foundation for presenting today's conversation. Be sure to tune in next week for Angela Dunleavy-Stoll, the CEO of Fair Start, and Lauren McGowan, our Senior Director of Ending Poverty and Homelessness at United Way, where they're going to have a conversation about food relief efforts in the community during these times. Remember that uwkc.org/volunteer is where you go to find all of these different opportunities, and you can always learn more or donate on our homepage, uwkc.org. So with that, I'll leave it to Liahann and Archana to say goodbye, and thank you to everyone for participating in today's live streaming. We'll see you next week.
Great.
Thanks, Giles, and stay safe, stay healthy, everyone.
Yeah.